Okay, here we are. Brendan Wall here with another edition of Film Talk, GameItAll.com. Right off the bat, I'd like to thank our sponsor, HostGator. They're a leading provider of shared, resold VPS and dedicated hosting solutions. Their award-winning support is available 24/7 via phone, email, and live chat, and you can discover why over 9 million websites trust HostGator and sign up for a new hosting package. Use the coupon code GameItAll and receive 25% off your first hosting plan. With that being said, I want to thank my guests for being here, Marilyn Anderson and Richard Rossner.
It's great to be here, Brendan.
Hi, Brendan. Happy to be here.
And pleasure's all mine. And these guys are the co-writers, and I believe, Marilyn, you're also the executive, or sorry, one of you, Richard, you're also the executive producer. Is that right?
You had it right the first time. It's me.
Okay, my bad. So you're the co-writers, and Marilyn is the executive producer of a film called How to Beat a Bully. And that's going to be available at Wal-Mart, actually, starting on April the 5th. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. And is that also available on VOD as well?
Yes, it is. It's on Amazon Video and Google Play, and it's also on iTunes.
Perfect. Okay, so you can pick it up there. And if not, you can also purchase it at Walmart starting on April the 5th.
And if you get it at Walmart, you get this wonderful wrapper too. That's a great little picture and some information on the back, and you can frame it and put it up in your house.
Perfect. I always like having the physical copy of movies for some reason.
Yes,
it's always been
I agree.
It's always been a thing.
And that way you can go to your friend's house and show them and all watch the movie together. And I think comedies are best when you're in a room and you can laugh with other people because laughter is infectious. So.
Exactly. I guess it's kind of an old school thing where I tend to watch movies more on disc than online, but it's a good thing to have in addition to, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 1 second here. Things just went all haywire. 1 second. Okay, so just before we get into the movie too much, I just want to get a little bit of context for both of you. So maybe starting with Marilyn and then Richard, maybe just a little bit about your background and what kind of got you inspired into filmmaking.
Well, I have a really interesting background. I actually have a couple degrees in biology and physiology. And I was working as a scientist at the National Academy of Sciences in Washington, D.C., and one day I said, I don't want to do this. I want to be a star. So I quit my job and sold my car and sold my furniture and sold my boyfriend. I didn't get much for him. And I moved to New York to become a star. And like a week after I got there, I got into a Broadway show, and I sang and danced and acted. And then I started doing stand-up. And I did stand-up back-to-back with another guy you've probably heard of, Jerry Seinfeld. So then one day I said I either have to take a vacation or get a job. Well, let's see, vacation or job. So I took a vacation, and I came out to L.A., and I really thought I was going to be acting out here, but I started writing, and everybody said, oh, you'll never get an agent, you'll never get this. And immediately, the first screenplay I wrote, I had so much interest. The big agency wanted to do it, and Billy Crystal wanted to do it, although at the time he couldn't get arrested. It was earlier in his career after Soap. So then I started writing for TV, and I wrote quite a few TV shows. I wrote on Murphy Brown. I wrote on Fame. And for some of your other audience, Brendan, I wrote on Friday the 13th, the series. I can kill 6 people an hour. Unfortunately, not the people of my choice. And the other big show that I wrote on was a show called Carol and Company, which starred Carol Burnett, and it also starred Jeremy Piven and Richard Kind in their first TV shows. So I feel like I'm partly responsible for their careers because I wrote their first lines on TV.
That was their first lines on TV?
Well, yeah, it was an anthology show, and Jeremy Piven actually had just came out from Chicago, and this was like his first big break was on Carol and Company. Unfortunately, the show only ran 2 years, and then I've always, though, loved writing screenplays. That has been my very favorite thing. And Richard and I wrote this script actually quite a while ago, and it was optioned 8 times and never made. And then finally I decided no more options. And as soon as I decided that, things started to happen. And I'll let you talk to Richard a little before we tell you the story of how to Beat a Bully actually came to be.
Okay, perfect. And Richard, what was your kind of background?
My sad life is not nearly as interesting as Marilyn's. What can I say? I grew up in New Jersey, and we were a stone's throw from New York. So I saw my first Broadway play with the original cast. It was Bye Bye Birdie, and I was a little boy, but I said, "Wow, there is something about theater that is so exciting." I knew I wanted to get involved. And when I wound up going to a summer camp, and the first day of this summer camp, I was asked to have a small role in a play that was happening that weekend. My role was to play the part of an assassin who walks on stage and gets killed. At the very end, the curtain call, I heard all that applause, and I was sure it was all for me. And I said, yes, this is my home. This is what I'm going to do. And from that point on, I was interested in acting. I was also interested in writing. I wound up making the rounds in New York. A friend and I were both, we had casting calls for a new show that was coming out, and we both had callbacks. He got a part, I didn't, and a couple of years later, he said, you got to come out to Los Angeles because that show was Welcome Back, Kotter. If you remember that show, I know it's an oldie, but my friend was Robert Hedges. Now, Welcome Back, Kotter was also the thing that launched John Travolta's career. So I moved out here, wound up started to do some writing for television. I wrote an episode of Kotter. I wound up writing on Full House, being a staff writer, a story editor on Full House, as well as several other productions. The thing I'm most proud of, I have to say, other than How to Beat a Bully, the thing that I was most proud of was I got to work on the Live Aid show. So I was part of something that really used writing to help end a famine in Ethiopia and really make a difference in the world. So that's all been very exciting. Marilyn and I we hooked up after I had completed my time with Full House, and we've written screenplays. That was I really started focusing on screenplays with Marilyn, and it's been a joyride ever since.
Right.
Excellent. Now, when you started working together, how did you come up with the idea for the story for How to Beat a Bully?
Well, I'll start it off. Home Alone had just come out and had been super, super successful, and they were looking for family features. And so we said, hey, let's write a family feature. And we got the idea, of course, to do something about a boy and his father, and then the bullying issue wasn't quite as hot a topic, but we wanted something that had heart and had family values, but we could still make it funny. So we came up with this idea. Both Richard and I had been bullied in high school. Actually, a girl used to hit me every time I went down the hall. I was one of the smart girls, and she was one of the tough girls, and she would literally hit me. So I did end up giving that story to the mom in the movie, although in the movie she says that they became friends afterwards, which of course they never did. In real life, I never did. But although I will say the girl tried to friend me on Facebook recently. So that was kind of funny. But we came up with this movie, and after we wrote it, we actually optioned it to Hollywood. Everybody was super excited about it. And we optioned it 8 different times. And they kept saying they would make it. This was all different producers, but they never did. And that's when I finally decided no more options. And I went out and raised the money. I found an investor, and then I teamed up with a production company, and they brought in a second investor. And after all those options, by doing it myself, we were cast and in production in 6 months. So sometimes the message is do it yourself.
Yeah, this is one of those overnight successes that took 20 years to make. We worked so hard on this thing just to get it to the point where we had a script that we were so proud of. And this script actually won a couple of screenplay competitions. Everybody, as Marilyn said, we had several options over the years. People remembered this film continually over all that time, and it took the right, I guess, the stars needed to be in the right place for it to finally come together. But it did, and it's very, very exciting to have something that you worked on for so long finally come to bear fruit.
Yeah, it really makes the whole process worthwhile, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What was I going to say here? Yeah, and I thought that the script is really interesting because you have a story here where it's about bullying, but it's unique in the sense that the plot involves the main character saying that his dad is in the mafia, and I just want to talk about that for a bit because the writing is really, really good, especially when you have these scenes where they're doing everyday family things, but other people interpret it as mafia things, right? And I just was that hard to stage, like those kinds of scenes? Because it seems like it would take a lot of thought into stuff like that.
Well,
go ahead, Mary.
Well, I was going to say it's just part of our comedy thing. We wanted to make the family seem real and likable, and I think that these actors do really have that likable quality as a family. But then when the rumor starts to fly, that's what Richard and I are trained in. That's what we do best is comedy. So luckily we got a director who got our vision and was able to make it funny, but still believable in the context of the story and of the comedy.
But writing, figuring all of that out, how all of that fit together, that really is the fun part, because you've got these various puzzle pieces you're trying to make fit. And when they finally come together, it is so satisfying. And by the way, Brendan, I have to thank you, because in reading your review, it was so gratifying because you totally got what we did. Not every reviewer gets that, but you did. And it just felt so good to be gotten and to be understood that way. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, like the one scene in particular I was thinking of is an early one where you have the father sitting at the table ordering the pest control.
Yes.
And I think that's the directing too, and the writing, just the way it's staged, is just like it was the funniest scene in the movie.
Yeah, and I think the kids are really good too. I think the reactions. That kid who overhears the father, his name is Brian Yoshi Brown,
yes.
And from the moment he auditioned, he was so strong. And of course, the moment is the kid has lied. Corey has lied and said that his dad is in the mafia, and of course nobody believes him. But then the paper boy comes by, and the father's on the phone saying, "I want them dead and gone by tomorrow." And the kid overhears him thinking it's people, but it's really he's talking about bugs. So it escalates it, and it was shot so that it would look a little like The Godfather for the adults in the audience.
But that's the important point, that when we were writing, we weren't trying to write down. We were trying to write at the top of our game as intelligently as possible for things that would make us laugh. And if it makes us laugh, it would make parents laugh, because we knew there was enough in there for the kids to laugh at as well. So we really wanted to be able to hit everybody who was watching.
Right, and I think that does separate a weaker family movie from a stronger one, in that you have something for both age groups, right?
Yes.
Like you have enough for the kids to understand, but also there's enjoyment for the adults too, because you have that plot line going as well, and you have references to The Godfather and like Al Capone and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also we have a scene, if you saw Goodfellas, where the little kid now becomes a godfather on the schoolyard, and it's sort of like that Joe Pesci character who says, you think that's funny? I don't think that's funny. Richard, you do a good one of
what
that.
What was so funny? What, you find that funny? What are you laughing at? You laugh at nothing?
Yeah. Now you have I think this is the first screener I've watched where it's a predominantly young cast, a lot of kids in the movie, Is it very hard to shoot a film with a lot, like an independent film, especially where you're on a limited time and budget, with a lot of young actors? Because I know there's a lot of provisions where certain times at night and like certain hours of the day they can't shoot. Did that become an issue at all?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that, because it was not shot in sequence, and actually the first couple days of shooting were the climax at the movie at the stables, and we had all the kids there and the mobsters there, and at the end of the day, because you not only have rules from the show business arena, but you have state laws about how long you can keep kids working. So at the end of the day, it did get a little hairy, but we managed to get everything in. And what I was really proud of is originally we were shooting at a stable, but there were horses there, and we were not supposed to use the horses. But the horses were doing some funny stuff where they were nodding their heads, and I insisted, we got to get these horses in the movie. They're too funny. So I made them shoot a couple funny bits with the horses, and we used them in the finale also. So that part was fun.
One of the things that I think that was really, it was unique for the kids in the film. Usually when there's a kid in a film, there's one, and they're alone on the set, and they really don't have anybody else to interact with. In this case, they had a whole gang of kids, so they actually bonded quite nicely, and that I think worked in our favor, because they enjoyed one another, but they were also professional enough to know that they're there for a purpose and they needed to get the work done. So they were very focused, but they had each other. They had that camaraderie, and they were working with each other very, very well. So I think that part helped us, because, yes, you're right. Working with kids is a huge challenge when you are on a very, on a tight budget with a certain amount of time. So that worked quite well for us, I think.
And the kids themselves, as Richard said, were so professional. Like when Grant McClellan came in, he's the redhead who plays the lead Corey. He was so good. We just fell in love with him right away for the part. And even the kids with the smaller parts, Griffin Beebe is just a little waif, and he is so funny. And then Pierce Josa, who plays Kirk, he just got a lead in a new show that's coming out on Disney. So we're hoping.
I like to say stars of tomorrow, here today. See them here today.
So out of all the child actors that you had on the set, was this a first role for any of them?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I think it was probably Griffin's first role.
I think
he's the little guy who plays Timmy. And he has one of my favorite lines when he's looking through his mother's purse. Am I allowed to give a spoiler with a line here? And he's looking through his mother's purse, and he says, "Sleepy Deeseys, relax it all. Boy, my family's got problems."
Yeah, I remember that.
I just think he's so funny.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the. I do remember that when you brought that up. That scene did make me laugh quite a bit. Just because it's another thing. It's a line from a child, but it's an adult joke though, right?
Right, right. And Grant, the redhead, reminds me a little bit of a young the big Ron Howard. I guess because of his red hair. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
And when we first met Pierce Josa, he's the one that has the lead in the new Disney show. We did some stills with them, and we did some little interviews with them, and both Richard and I said, this guy, he's like a little man. We think he's going to become the future Ryan Seacrest, because he's so mature and smart as well as being talented.
Well, never know. Might see him hosting another version of American Idol sometime down the line.
Just a few years down the road when they're ready to revive it.
Yeah. This is just a little thing I noticed that was kind of funny. The actor, Eric Lauritsen,
yes.
Who plays
Joe.
Joe. Yeah, it was just funny because when I was looking up information about the movie, he's going to play a gangster in a movie coming out this year, which I thought was really funny.
Well, what was funny is I actually think that we originally called him in for one of the gangsters. And we
Okay.
read him, but we thought he had such a nice quality about him, and I actually think he looks a little like a young Jackie Gleason. But I think he was able to make the transition between being inept and clueless with being funny and being a caring dad at the same time, which I think is not all that easy.
Yeah, and he has a convincing look too. If you didn't know him, that if this mafia rumor was going around, then it wouldn't be that far fetched to take a look at him and believe it, right?
Yeah, well, we actually called him in for the gangster originally, but then, like I said, it was his reading. We said, "Would you mind reading for another part?"
Yeah.
And it was nice when we matched him up with Elise Angel, and we looked at the three with Grant McClellan together. There was such a nice, likable quality about everybody, the way they fit together. You really just like these people naturally. It really does come through the screen, I think.
Yeah, no, the chemistry between all the actors I thought was really solid. Like everyone seemed to be on board with everything. And everyone just kind of had every performance just kind of had like a fun vibe behind it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we think so. I mean, I've watched it a bunch of times because it's always fun. Obviously, you wrote something, you like it a lot. But when I look at the family, I think this could be one of the families on TV, because they just really all gelled together. And we tried to also hit some other family issues besides bullying, like, if a man gets fired and he has to move his family to a new town, that's a whole issue. And the wife has to set up the house and take care of her family. And the young boy has to, move to a new school and make new friends and face bullies. So we think we hit on a lot of these family values, but we did it in a funny way instead of, preaching. We did it so that people can laugh and then maybe talk about it afterwards, but not hit them over the head with an issue.
And that,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the head bad guy, played by Vince Dunvito, what was so great about him, I so believed him when I saw him doing the work that he was doing as we were shooting, that I was completely shocked when I sat and spoke with him off camera. Because he really is such a good actor. He's not like that at all. It was just so nice to see what a full performer he is. And he really does get every ounce out of that character in this film.
And this Vince Donvito, he is the one, I don't want to give too much away, but he's the one that's in the farmhouse, right?
Yeah, he's the bald. No, he's the bald guy. Vince Donvito is the bald Marco. He plays Marco Marconi, the head mobster.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And then Micah Lyons is his sort of dumb sidekick.
Right. Yeah, and that's really funny too that gets incorporated. That there's an actual mafia, and they're starting to buy into the rumor too. Now, I wanted to mention, too, you got a great director here you got to work with as well. And the editing, too. I feel like I know it's a low-budget movie, but even the credits, the music, and the editing, it made it feel like a higher budget. It made it feel like it had a higher budget. I don't know who did the soundtrack for the film, but the opening song is really good. And I even like the opening credits. It sets the tone for the film really well.
Yeah, the opening credits we think are great. They're animated and they're lots of fun. And the music, I can tell you, the score was done by an Emmy award-winning composer, Misha Siegel. And then the songs, the opening song that you're talking about was done by a group called Reverse Order. And they were a semifinalist on America's Got Talent.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is they're doing a national tour of 250 schools with an anti-bullying concert and assembly. So they're really into the bullying issue as well. And when they heard about this movie, they actually contributed 3 songs. The first one that you're talking about and two others that are in the film. One is on the radio, and one plays before the very, very end credits. But they're super talented guys, and as I said, they heard about the movie, and so that song is from a group called Reverse Order, and kids can see them in schools all over the country now, so that's cool.
I'd like to mention one other song that's in the movie, and that's it's at the very end of the end credits. It's the title song, "How to Beat a Bully," and I have to say, with all due impartiality, I'm very proud of it because my son wrote that song.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, it was very exciting for him. Yeah,
and it's the theme song, obviously, from How to Beat a Bully, and that's going to be released on iTunes too. And Chase did a great job, and they had to audition the song. We didn't just take it, so we had to like it in order to do it. And it is a very good song. We really like it, called How to Beat a Bully, and we think there's other ways to get that kind of a song out too, because it's such an issue and it's a fun way. I think music and humor is a way to get serious issues out that's a more positive way than, there's a lot of YouTube videos and stuff on bullies that are mean and sad and distressing. But this is a movie that people can laugh and have fun with, and then they can talk to their parents afterwards about it, whatever. But they can all have a good time with it.
It's an easier opening for a conversation, a serious conversation. But this gives it a gentle way to ease into that conversation.
Yeah, and I think overall it works a lot better than just a 2-hour lecture just hammering it into your head about bullying, rather than what I mean.
Yeah.
We actually heard from a state trooper who runs a anti-bullying program, and he saw the film, and he liked it so much, he said, I'd like to put this film at the beginning of my program, because it would loosen up the kids, get them laughing, and when kids are laughing and having a good time, they're more apt to get into, the conversation afterwards. So that was a real nice compliment to us and what we did, too,
And when you talk about strategies of how to beat a bully, I don't know how many comedians I've heard over the years saying, well, I was picked on at school, and the only way I could defend myself was to use humor. And that was my way around it. Once I got them laughing, I had them.
Yeah, I've heard that many times too. And no, I had something. It's gone.
Well, and about the credits you talked about, I really love those credits. I mean, the opening credits with the animation. We were so pleased to Robert Beebe did that. He's actually the father of Griffin Beebe, who plays Timmy. But we loved the credits when we saw them. In our script, by the way, we wrote that that transition, and then he brought it to life, which was what was so great. Is again, for a low budget movie. Now, when we first wrote the script, as we said, we wrote it as a big budget movie. So we did have to find that when we had a less budget than $10 million or $20 million, we had to sort of revamp the script a little because we were shooting on a quicker shooting schedule with less funding. But we think we were able to keep really the whole sense of the story in it. And the interesting thing is, too, that Richard and I are just finishing now. We wrote the novel version of How to Beat a Bully, and we're going to release that later this year so that people who watch the movie can read the novel, which is going to have the more detailed story with even more twists and turns. So that's an interesting little tidbit for you.
Cool. So the novel is on its way as well.
Yeah.
Now, do you, separately or individually, do you have any future projects right now that you're working on or looking to release anytime soon?
Yeah,
actually, we just wrote a romantic comedy together. It's called Cold Feet, A Wedding Tale. And it's a wedding kind of story, but different wedding story than you've seen before. And we already have a director, Arthur Allen Seidelman, who's been in the business quite a while. And they're hoping to start shooting this picture within the next few months. So you'll have something to watch from the two of us hopefully soon.
Oh, excellent. And okay. And did you have anything else? Anything else you wanted to mention? Coming.
Well, we do have other projects that we're working on developing, but nothing that we can talk about at this time.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a couple of other projects, and I actually have a web series that I shot, and I'm writing the book to go with that too, and it's called How to Live Like a Millionaire When You're a Million Short.
And that's is that on that's on your website, you said?
It hasn't been launched yet. I'm probably going to launch it in the next month or so.
Okay.
But
Okay.
a lot of people have told me they're interested in that for some reason. I don't know. Everybody wants to live well, huh?
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, I want to thank you both very much for joining me here and talking about How to Beat a Bully. I'm just going to reiterate that it comes out at Walmart on April 5th, and it is available on video on demand right now. What were the platforms again? Sorry.
Well, it's on Amazon Video, it's on Google Play, it's on iTunes, and we also have a website at howtobeatabullykthemovie.com. And if they go to that website, it'll have links to the other places that they can buy it, and it also has a link to our Facebook page. So come and visit us on Facebook and write to us and tell us what you think. It's howtobeatabullykthemovie.com.
Perfect. There you have it. Yeah, thank you both very much, and good luck in your future career. Good luck with How to Beat a Bully.
Thanks so much, Brandon. A pleasure talking to you.
Great, Brendan. Thank you.